SNN Street News Now.
And welcome to the show. It's Thursday Night Live with the Five Guys and you. We're going to chop it up tonight, talk about some great stuff. No, we're not going to deal with Stacey Dash tonight. No. I think we had enough of her last week. Although Dr. Ron still has a job for you, Stacey, if you're ready. If you're ready. But anyway, we're going to talk about what's happening down at the border and a lot more tonight. Let's get it started. Oh, by the way, I'm Lee Michaels, and I would love for you to do me a big favor. This is a personal request. I want you to go to our YouTube page. It's called SNN Street News Now, and subscribe. We're trying to build up our subscription level here. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers ASAP. So you can help us out. Go to Facebook, do a search for Street News Now or SSN, and then Street News Now. Either way, it'll come up. And subscribe, and then share it to your friends, and give us a like. Okay? Is that asking for too much? No. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and that'll help us grow the channel. Let me welcome Francisco to the show. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Another day in paradise. All good. How are you?
I'm rocking, jocking, and finger popping. Hey, you know me. What you got on your plate for us tonight?
It's another sad topic. We're going to be talking about gun violence in America, but not in a political way, just in a human way.
Okay, all right. And let's go over to the base man. Welcome to the show, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. A hearty boom shakalaka to everybody out there. On the docket for myself, we're going to talk about the following. The talk that's on CBS TV is now taking a hiatus because Sharon Osbourne has made some controversial statements. Are we seeing the mass exodus of racist comments and bullying? I'll have that when we come back to my side.
All right. Well, I can't wait to talk about that one. I have some opinions about the whole Sharon Osbourne and her statement, and got her ass in some hot water. Dr. Ron, welcome, brother.
Yes.
What are you talking about tonight?
Man, I have a concern and interested in getting my brothers on the panel opinion about these children on the border. We all are parents, and I just gotta hear what the brothers gotta say about the children at the border.
All right. Well, we're going to chop it up and find out what it's all about. Reverend Dr. DJ Miles in the house like a child on punishment. Now, I know you got a lot to talk about.
Well, blessings. How you doing? First, again, the question of the night, how's your funk intelligence?
About the same.
Yeah, okay, good. Your funk intelligence. What's on my mind tonight was the movement that happened in Georgia and the comments made by Miss Stacey Abrams. And the question I would like for the fellas to chop up, what are we going to do now?
Well, there's a lot to be done. There's no question about that. And we got to make it happen. Plain and simple. All right, let's take Francisco first and chop up his topic.
Excuse me, before we get started, real good, Lee, you're froze up, man. You got.
I know.
Okay, all right.
It's
you be on it, man. What's up with that?
I know, man. He's like a kid in a candy store.
Hey, man, he got all these toys. I be wanting them to work right,
I ain't mad at you. I don't have an explanation as to why I froze.
Okay. All right.
But I'll fix it.
Why I froze. I have no explanation on why I froze. Okay, got it.
You're back.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. I had to come back because the professor was about to go deep.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. He done already went deep funkin' Pelican and stuff, you know.
He cool, man. He cool, man. You know that's George Clinton, man. Ain't nothing new with that.
Well, that's true. We know all about the Funkadelics.
Woo.
Yeah.
The Funkateers.
Want my funk undone. Damn.
Yeah. I guess we're going to Francisco, right? That's where you started.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Let's go down to the border and see what's going down.
Yeah, no. Ron's going to take us to the border. I'm gonna talk about no borders. So yeah, we got a couple of heavy subjects tonight, and mine is just in general the situation with gun violence in America. And here's the interesting thing about it. There are a couple of interesting things. Number one, it is really unique to America what is going on with regard to gun violence, gun deaths, random murders, mass shootings, all these things. They generally just simply do not happen in other countries. And anytime they do, they do not happen with the kind of frequency that they happen in America. Within a week, we had 2 mass shootings. And it's always this idea that it's too soon to talk about it. There's nothing we can do about it. And that is just absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. And what I want to know, what I want to discuss with the panel really is, why is America this way? Why are we a country that is so violent in comparison to any other country? I mean, our gun violence, and I'm not even counting suicides by gun, but you can count those. But we're talking about over 30,000 people a year die by gun, and the people that are supposed to protect us, the lawmakers, just won't do anything about it. And I kind of wrote it off back in 2012, because when the reality of 20 children murdered who were between 6 and 7 years old was met with, but the Second Amendment, it was a wrap for me. I knew that there was no hope. And I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope that there's a way through this, but I just don't see it. I want to understand this. Part of what I do is assess human beings and try to figure out what makes them tick. And so here's the other thing that frustrates me, is that we know in national polls, the overwhelming majority of Americans want gun control. So there's a severe disconnect between the will of the people and the people that are supposed to be our representatives. And so I just want to throw that out, see what you guys think about that.
Well, let me kick it off. First of all, our politicians have been bought off by the NRA and other gun enthusiasts, and they're cowards. They won't stand up to the right thing. They won't stand up and say, enough. How many more people have to die before we get a grip on these crazy gun people? We got to stop making excuses. Well, he had a mental condition, or he had a bad fucking day. No, unacceptable. Unacceptable. Stop making excuses. It's time for us to grow up, put your big boy pants on, stand up against stupidity. The cop that went into that grocery store lost his life. 7 kids at home and a wife. He's gone. He's history. He's now a hero. But I got to tell you, I'll tell you where it needs to start. With the police departments around this country. Because if I was a cop, Captain, you can have my badge and my gun. I'm out of here. Because it's out of control. They don't respect me. They don't respect you. They don't respect this badge. They don't respect my gun. There's no respect here. I can't do this job anymore. I'm going to go drive a milk truck. I'm out. So it's going to have to start with the police officers around the country. Start saying, I don't want to go out here and deal with these crazy people. They've got the same kind of guns that I have, maybe better. Some of them are military trained. Some are not. But the fact of the matter is, who wants a job that you got to go up against crazy people?
But let me address the idea of police, because a lot of Americans don't know the history of the police department. And, you know, we're all tech heads on the show. And, you know, when you're trying to figure out an issue, you have to figure out whether it's a bug or a feature. Is it something aberrant? Is it a mistake? Is it an error? Or is this something baked into the programming? And when we look at the police department, please, we have to acknowledge that the police department was called Slave Patrol first. That's where it started in America, as Slave Patrol. So there are racists in the police department at every level. You know, you spoke about the police officer that said he was having a bad day. Is there anyone that thinks that if the assailant was black, that he would have been given that kind of latitude? No one. We know for a fact that black people are not spoken about that way. We know when broadcasters are talking about riots, if it's a black riot, it's thugs. If it's a white riot, it's exuberance. Like literally, you can see the videos side by side of the same broadcasters describing white riots and black riots. So this is what's going on in the police force. And that's why we're talking about defunding, which is an unfortunate word that people came up with, because it doesn't mean taking all the money out of the police force. It means using more money to build the community so that the police force has less work to do. And yes, I think it's real critically important to train police officers more than is required to be a hair practitioner. So, you know, if you work in a hair salon, you literally get more training than someone who is judge, jury, executioner, has a license to kill, and has a weapon at all times. That's insanity. So yes, I agree. The police is a good place to start.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. And then we got to, you know, deal with the politicians and get them out of the pockets of the NRA and gun knuckleheads. And then I think we can see some, but more importantly, there should be enough people in the House and the Senate to change the laws without any repercussions whatsoever. Mm-hmm. The majority of the people in this country want tighter gun controls. At least 70%, if not more. I think it's more because some people are just quiet about it. And, well, you know, to each his own. And, you know, I don't want to take anybody's gun rights away. I'm not advocating that. But to this guy that shot up those people in the grocery store, was he a qualified, certified gun owner? If the answer to that is yes, what kind of training did he go through? How did he get a license to carry, if that's a license to carry state? There's a lot of questions that are unanswered in this situation. And then the one before that. And they're seemingly coming very close now. Is it because crazy people are just getting out in the streets because they've been on lockdown for a year? No, they were crazy before the lockdown. They had access to the guns before the lockdown. And then
didn't stop during the lockdown.
Right. And then we've had a crazy ass president for the 4 years that advocated crazy, promoted crazy, anarchy, overturned the government. Be mean, be in your face, be racist.
Although ironically, Dump was for gun control. You know, it's that old saying of even a broken clock is right twice a day. He actually was for, in 2018, he spoke extensively about the idea of getting rid of guns.
But what did he do?
Well, that's another story, but
you can speak
it's kind of
about
shocking that he even addressed it.
Well, he addressed a lot of things that he didn't live up to. So that's his campaign speeching.
Yeah.
But yeah. He was a fraud.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I think we the people have to bring about the change. The people that we're sending to represent us are not doing their job. So let's fire all of them if need but be and start over. We've been talking about, term limits. These guys are career politicians on both sides of the aisle, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, or there's some old ass independents in there as well. And they're stuck.
And you've got to get rid of gerrymandering. You've got to get rid of gerrymandering. That is a plague on the electoral process. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me throw this out there because I know everybody's going to have an opinion on this. It's not the guns, and I know people say this constantly. It's the people who misuse the guns are the problem. And you give armies guns when you teach them how to go out and kill people. And then you turn those same people back onto your civilian streets with that training. And some of these guys ain't never been right. When they went in the military, they just barely got in. And now you didn't taught them to successfully kill people. Okay. And then you turn them back onto your public streets. I would say if you look at the mentality of murder, then you would begin to break down some things and begin to try and figure out how to solve this, how to evaluate this, how to address this and move forward. Yes, we need to take guns out of the hands of people that don't have respect for human life. Okay, because that's the issue, not having respect for human life. Even on the streets of Chicago, they run around with weapons of all kinds and kill people. They have no respect for human life, and that's a problem. So some of these guys, they got 8th, 9th, 10th generation of crack babies. They don't care for their own life, let alone for anybody else's. So, death would be a welcome thing for them, to go out in the blaze of glory like it's the OK Corral or something. But I'm going to throw this in the mix, too. You don't hear about gun violence in some of the other countries because they don't have guns available. But that doesn't stop the fact that there are not murders and homicides. Their weapon of choice might be a machete. Okay. Or, something of that nature, what is, commonly available to them to be able to execute the same ideology of murder.
Right. But in those countries, you rarely have 50 people being slashed by someone with a knife.
Man, I know some of these islands, they issue tourist warnings. Don't go here because you might lose your head.
Understood. But if you notice, we're not all running around with nuclear weapons, right? Because they put tight controls on that. So obviously there's a way to do it. And I think what Lee was talking about is really the bottom line. The people in charge, because we the people can say anything we want to say. But like you said, our representatives are not taking care of business as we have asked them to do. And they're the ones with the true power in our society.
I totally agree. I'm not arguing with that. But in essence, they endorse what's going on because just like in the last couple of days, I'm gonna call his name, Cruzman, endorsing the fact that every time the Democrats, see a mass murder, they want to holler gun control.
Pardon us for having a human reaction to death.
And this guy is like, it's not the people with the legal guns. You want to unarm us so that the criminals can attack. That's his point.
That's a damn lie, and it's another one of these fear tactics, and that's how they control the people who have these guns or thinking about getting a gun. A guy sitting in his house with 20 or 30 guns. Okay, maybe you're a hunter. I had a friend, he's deceased now. He may have had 30 guns in his house. He had 5 or 6 bow and arrows, some hatchets, some slingshots. But I knew he was stable up here. And at first and foremost, he was a hunter. He would go out and shoot hogs and birds and, rabbits and squirrels and shit like that to eat. And he would go fishing and catch a cooler full of fish and feed half the neighborhood. That's a guy. That's a guy that has control of his faculties, and he's not a sick, twisted, demented fool that will pop off and go in a grocery store and start shooting people. And more importantly, what kind of gun did this guy have?
One
One guy had a long rifle, and
I'm not sure what type it was.
Yeah.
They stopped talking about it. They don't want to identify because of the AK-47 or something like that. They want to downplay that because that's a scary weapon. That's a war machine.
That's been standing 6 feet away from someone firing an AK-47 and an AR-15. Let me tell you something.
How are you going to win? If I was a cop, I wouldn't want to face that guy.
Is not a weapon for doing anything except killing people.
Exactly. That's what it was made for.
It's not about hunting squirrels or elk or moose or anything like that.
No.
It is the firepower. I had earplugs in and headphones on, and it was some of the loudest stuff I ever heard in my life. Mm-hmm. And the firepower behind these things is immense. The guns are, at the end of the day, one of two products that, when used correctly, end in death. Cigarettes are the other ones. All right. If it's an immaculate little machine with the purpose of taking human life. And I don't understand why we can't, even at the very least, treat guns like we treat cars. Cars can accidentally be used for violence. And we make sure that you're licensed to use them, you're trained to use them, you take a written test, a practical test, you have to register the car, you have to have a license, you have to insure the car. If you sell it, that other person has to insure it. If you move states, you have to re-register it again. And there are over 300 million cars in America. Why don't we just take that system and apply it to guns?
And
it's because politicians don't want to.
We have over 300 million guns in this country, too.
Yeah.
I don't own a gun.
Nope.
How many of you own guns?
No.
Okay.
But I used to at one point in time.
Me too.
I used to be a gun owner at one time. When I was a younger fella, let me just say it like that. So that was a long time ago.
And I'm thinking about that conceal and carry, though.
Yeah.
I was in the grocery store about 3 months ago, and I went down one aisle, and this gentleman was standing there. He was looking at whatever he was looking at, product. And then when I passed him, I noticed on his hip he had a 6-shooter in a holster. He didn't have, a uniform on. He had his own gun strapped. And here in Nevada, it's open carry. I got a little nervous.
Of course.
I'm not accustomed to seeing that.
And now you have to worry, is this guy going to turn around and start shooting people?
Exactly. And I did some political campaigning here for Hillary Clinton. Actually, it was just here to register people to vote, and I was standing in front of a grocery store getting people to register. And this guy rolled up in a wheelchair with a gun in his lap. I went, damn, what's this all about? Again, in Nevada, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the guy, I said, man, why you got the gun in your lap like that? He goes, because I can. I was, okay.
It might be the law, but that doesn't mean it's okay. It's obviously not okay to everybody around that person.
I said, well, why don't you put it on your side? He said, well, if it's over here, I might not be able to get to it in time. I said, what are you anticipating? What are you fearful of?
They're looking for trouble.
His Rambo fantasies.
Yeah, looking for trouble.
Yeah. This guy can't walk or run, but he's walking around with a gun. Now, you could argue that, well, maybe he should have protection because somebody might try to take advantage of him in his wheelchair.
We're going to rob him for his wheelchair?
You're right, throw him on the ground and roll him.
Yeah, the spree of wheelchair muggings that we hear about all the time.
Right,
what is this guy really protecting himself about?
Right.
It's not even about protection. It's just it's psychopathy.
Yeah. Fiona says it was a AR-556 pistol purchased on March the 16th via the Denver Post. So she's saying the gun in Colorado was that was the type of gun. So even that's an assault weapon.
But they're all guns are assault weapons.
Yeah,
that's the point.
But
they're made to kill people.
When the gun laws were created by our forefathers, they didn't know nothing about a damn AK-47 or the machine guns and stuff that we have today. Back in those days, we had muskets. Half the time those things didn't fire.
Right, and that's where the term "blowing your wad" came from. Was muskets.
Exactly.
The piece of paper that you put in at the end to hold the ball in, the bullet, is the wad. And sometimes you would pull the trigger, a spark would go off, and nothing.
Oh man, you messed me up.
I know you were thinking 70s porn, but no, it's actually from muskets.
I actually went there too.
So I haven't blown my wad. Okay.
Well, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I don't want to know.
I don't know either. But I never had a wad to blow.
Yeah, but the tragedy is, the bottom line is people do not value life.
Yeah, that's really the bottom line.
There's enough people that don't. Most people do, but there's too many that don't.
Right. And it doesn't take a whole lot. Even if you've got 5% of the population that does not value life, those are the ones doing all the damage.
Get even more fundamental, Ron. Think about the American population. If there was 1% psychos out there with guns, that would make 3.3 million people. That's too many. That's too many people looking to do harm to other people.
Mm-hmm. But then a lot of people are trained to think that way because of their, military experiences. Because I ain't met a Marine yet that's wrapped too tight. Okay, I'm just gonna say it like that. These guys are the first ones in.
Clock tower shooter, he was a Marine.
Yeah, these guys, the first ones in. And you think about it, you are brainwashed by your government to go out and die for the United States of America. So they face death every day. Okay, and then they teach these guys everything from killing folks from hand to hand with weapons, and then they specialize them accordingly to what they excelled in their training. But you think about these guys, you pour them back out into the public, now what?
Yeah. How many of you on the panel, if you were a cop, would have rushed into that grocery store by yourself?
Well, probably we all would have, because when you are a police, well, maybe not, but when you're a police officer, think about it. Most times that's how a police officer responds. That's why I respect police officers in general.
I do too.
Because they're willing to run into a place where they hear gunfire while everyone else is running away. And I have my issues with police, but we have to understand that, that's a tremendously courageous thing to do.
It is, and I salute this officer who gave his life. But if I was in his shoes and I'd say, I got 7 kids at home, let me slow my roll, let me work this walkie-talkie here and get some backup, and not bum rush this guy by myself.
Yeah, that's what SWAT. Look, that's
call
what
me a coward, call me a punk. You can call me in, but don't call me late for dinner, number one. But I don't know, man. I think that was a tough call. So that was a real tough call.
So help me out. So this dude went in the front door.
Yeah. He charged the grocery store by himself.
Yeah,
he was the first guy to get there.
I'm going in the back door. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Look,
I'm not going in by myself.
I'm like Lee.
I'm going in the back door.
I'm like Lee, man. Call the SWAT team. We got us one. I'm gonna be standing outside like that brother that was in what was that with Bruce Willis? He stayed out in the squad car and talked to everybody on the phone.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be down there. How many of you got in there with you? You know?
Right.
My.
I don't know, man. I feel for this man's wife and
Yeah,
his
I do
kids.
too. Yeah.
You know,
It's
these
a
kids
horrible
don't have a
situation.
father,
Yeah.
and
Well,
he's called a hero,
but the hero
but
ain't
he's
nothing but a
dead.
when she got ate up. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you say, Chris? You going in?
Yeah, because as Francisco said, you're trained for that. Whether you're there by yourself or whether you're calling for backup, it definitely is a judgment call. But that's what you're trained to do, and especially in a situation where you size up the competition, you know what's in there from the standpoint of looking around, and he is a hero, but that is the job that he had chosen, and I feel sorry, obviously, for his wife and children, but it's you knew the job wasn't easy when you took it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, when you're in that moment, maybe your thinking is different, and maybe you are trained to bum rush, get in there and try to stop it. But as I understand, there was maybe 2 or 3 people out on the sidewalk there that were already dead before going in.
Right.
So it seems to me that maybe, just maybe, and it's easy for me to be the Monday morning quarterback here, but maybe he should have waited a moment and got some backup. And maybe with the Special Forces Department that is trained to do that type of work. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there for thought. But maybe we should maybe move on to the next topic. Are we going?
Can
You
I?
guys want any more words on this before we
Yeah,
move?
I just want to say, I was taking a couple of notes. Lee, you stole one of my points. Well, you didn't steal it, but you said it. The problem, the NRA lobby, the problem, Republicans playing on the fear of people. Oh, we're going to take your Second Amendment and all this stuff. And do you know that some people with their stimulus check went into the stores to buy more guns? It was a report on that people were spending their money, part of their stimulus checks, on guns. Okay. And I can't remember this quote and I can't find it, but I think Wendell Pierce said something really profound. He said, if you want to stop gun control, he was saying something about giving black people more of the rights to have concealed and carry or something like that. And they would start changing laws right quick.
Well, that's what happened in 1968 in California when the Black Panthers showed up and brandished rifles legally. Suddenly, Ronnie Reagan said, "Hey, we need gun control."
Yeah.
Sure
So
did. Yep.
thank you. So there is a possibility, but what about the fact that the children are so indoctrinated with these violent games? You got this Doom, and you got all these kind of crazy games where they're brandishing these automatic weapons, and you running through these mazes, killing, shooting, and getting target practice, all kinds of stuff. And what was that other video game that was really violent? Grand Theft and things like that. So how do we desensitize or stop our young people from coming to this conclusion that violence is the only way out? How do we get to that? Well, it's not the games or nothing like that. Well, if we won't be able to find out till we stop using or stop marketing those games and things like that. So it's a whole lot of stuff that needs to be done. And I do agree that within the next 2 years, a lot of these people that are having these particular agendas, I believe that the people are going to rise up and they're going to make their votes count. I do think that we need to take scorecards on what these elected officials are doing. And if it's their time within the next 2 years, we need to roll out their records. And people need to be constantly educated on what these politicians are doing, because when it comes to election time, they run the Fox playbook, they run the fear, and then they run propaganda. So we have to educate through this program and others how to separate that garbage from, the real reality of what you want. Don't get, as the immortal poet Flavor Flav said, don't get caught up in the hype.
Well, we got a long way to go, and we'll probably be talking about this a year from now. I hope not. I hope that in the current administration and our elected officials on the local, state, and federal level will grow some balls, man up, woman up, and let's make some meaningful change. I'm not talking about necessarily taking every gun from everyone, but there's certainly some people that should not have access to guns.
Agreed.
And make it a little more difficult to get a license to carry a gun.
Agreed.
Let's, listen, my son is a long distance truck driver. He had to get a special license. He had to go to school to get his CDL. Okay. The second level is a class B in order to drive a straight truck up to 26,000 pounds or a little over that, whatever it is. You again have to go and get a special license for that. You also have to have a license to drive a car, a license to go fishing in most places, a license in some places to buy a gun, in other places, not so hard. I think it's pretty easy here in the state of Nevada. You fill out an application. I don't know that you have to go through any, sit down training or anything. You fill out an application. They do a quick background check. If you don't have a felony, you can buy a gun. You can carry a gun. You can go to the grocery store with a sidearm on. I don't know. I just think it's too easy. Now, there are people who will argue, well, if everybody had a gun, we wouldn't be having these killings. Really? There's over 330 million guns in this country, and we have these killings. And people who don't have guns are getting killed. You can say, well, if more people in the grocery store had guns, they would have taken them out. There's no guarantee in that.
Yeah, there have been attacks on police stations. There have been attacks on military bases where everybody had guns. By the way, I just confirmed, I had mentioned earlier that gun violence didn't slow down in 2020. In fact, 2020 was the deadliest year of gun violence in decades.
Is somebody in the state of Nevada, or not just in Nevada, but here in Las Vegas, there's shootings here every day. You don't hear about it, but I have an app here that breaking news in Las Vegas. Between car accidents, major car wrecks, and shootings, this is the Wild Wild West. And it's frightening how crazy it is. But anyway, let's change the topic here. Let's go south to the border and talk about what's going on down there with the children and people trying to run away from a bad situation, coming here for the American dream.
Yeah. Now, this is something that kind of pricked my heart severely when I started listening to some of the interviews that were taking place in the situation with the border. Now, I know everybody on the panel, they wear the title of father, and they've had an input in their children's lives, whatever that input may have been. So to see an interview with a father that has walked 500 miles across a country to go to the border to drop their child off to an unknown scenario or situation, to me, that was a very, very difficult thing to understand the mentality of a father, because a father's natural instinct is to be a protector, and to want to have an influence on their child's life. And it's just very, what they are running from and what they have come from had to be far worse than anything that they can imagine that they felt like they cannot protect their child in that scenario or that situation anymore. And they came to the border and says, okay, here, take my child. Now I listened to the press conference today. Some of these children, when they come across the border, they have phone numbers on their, person for relatives that are already in the United States, with the expectation that the United States will reach out to them and award them to their relative. So that's a gamble. That's a chance, because there's no guarantee that what they're hoping to happen will happen. But it's got to be a mentality. And I know we've got one person with Hispanic descent on the panel. And I don't know if anybody has ever paid any attention to the dynamics of a Hispanic family. You can't date a Hispanic woman without having to deal with her brothers, her father, and everybody else. You just gonna have to, walk the gauntlet, and you might not survive. So you still might not get the chance to date that girl, because the family is so strong in the Hispanic community. The dynamic is so strong that to see this in direct opposite of a family, is really, it's against the father's nature. I can't see myself, just as an example, going to the Canadian border, dropping my kids off. I got twins, so I can't do it. It's just not something that you would want to see happen. I'm going to go to Canada, drop you off at the border, and not ever want to have a part of your life from that point going forward. So it's a hurtful thing to see. But I also know that, they had to feel like they could no longer protect that child going forward. And, the fathers on the panel, I throw it out. I don't know. Am I the only one that feels that way?
I don't know that I could do it. Now, the conditions must have been horrendous. For you to take your child to a border, to another country, whether it's America or wherever, and leave your child and hope for the best. That's a tough call, Dr. Ron.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't know that I could do it unless the conditions in which I was providing and had no control over was so bad that I was willing to sacrifice the relationship with the hope that my child would have a better life. That would have, but even, I don't know if I could walk away and just say,
but in this day and
luck.
age, we talk about 2021.
Yeah.
I can understand that if we were in the Underground Railroad, and we got to deliver, free people from slavery, something like that. That's a different scenario. That's like, 200 years ago. Here, take my kids and go to the north, and they got a chance of not getting killed or lynched. But in 2021, I know conditions in other countries are, very, very bad. I understand that, but it's really against the father's nature still.
Yeah.
But, the old saying is that desperate times call for desperate measures. And I can't imagine anything more desperate than what you're describing.
Yeah.
Having to give my child away and just hope that everything turns out.
Hope.
It's a terrifying thing. And this is a very complex issue. And it's an issue that falls on America's feet firmly. Because quite frankly, this condition is created by how much America consumes illegal drugs.
Yeah.
That is the immigration issue. And I want to make it very clear that the immigration issue as described by these psychotic Republicans is not the real issue. There are no hordes of people coming to take your livelihood and your job and rape your daughters and all that stuff. Being fearful of immigrants is the same as being fearful of unicorns. It just doesn't exist. There have been think tanks, Republican think tanks, that have looked at this situation, and the bottom line is immigrants actually put more money into the system than they take out. That's an absolute fact, and that was 3 different Republican think tanks that came to that conclusion while they were trying to prove the opposite.
Right.
And part of what's going on in these countries is that the drug cartels are running the countries, and they are savage and brutal and ruthless, and they rule through fear and violence. And so these are people literally running away from horrific situations, trying to save their children. And the American response to that is, well, you broke the law. We got to separate you and put you in cages. And again, it's the orientation that America has to black and brown people that enables them to look at people like that and go, well, they're animals anyway. Let them lose their souls, to quote The Godfather, because I know Ron appreciates Godfather quotes.
So do I. My favorite movie.
There you go.
So dropping your kid off at the border and walking away, you must be under the mindset or thinking that wherever this child is going to go is going to be better than what I've been able to provide. And even if that child is put into a cage,
concentration camp, call it like it is
better than where this child just came from. How bad is it in these places for you to, as a parent, come to that decision to drop off your child and walk away? I think I would be trying to get across the border with my child before doing the drop off. That would be me.
And very many of them do. But if they get caught, they get separated and put into, as Ron appropriately said, a concentration camp.
Yeah. It's they've been called on the carpet so much in the last couple of weeks. They finally started letting media in to do interviews with what's going on in these places, and they're still not letting them in every area.
But you know what? Let's think about this. For you as a parent to come up and make a decision that I'm going to go drop my child off and walk away, somebody on the other side of that border is selling the concept that it's going to be better for your child, and maybe it's the people down there that are trying to allegedly help people get across the border for a fee, that's brainwashing them and making them think that, hey, they've got a new president and this guy's soft on the border, and listen, give me 5,000 pesos and I'll get you get your kid over, and then we'll work on you next. I don't know. I'm just throwing these possibilities out. But somebody on the other side of that border is convincing people that this is a better situation. It has to be some kind of local propaganda that's pushing that.
But also we have to appreciate that it very often is a better situation.
Oh, Lord, there's Jesse Terrero. Suck it up, guys. You voted for a demon. Yeah. You know what? Listen, Jesse, I'm going to put you on Front Street here. I'm going to put you in total exposure because you did it to me, and now it's payback. Pay me my money. You lost. Donald Trump lost. We had a bet. Where's my money? Okay, don't come in with this crazy shit you're talking. That dog won't hunt. Pay me my money, and then maybe I'll invite you in. Okay, so pay up, up, and shut up.
Oh man, this is.
Sorry, guys, but
let me hold on. I got the. Well, this is some long shit here.
You get have it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had to say, but this is one of them big turds. You know, this completely filled up the commode. And this has got to be blind racism and just blind. I mean, this is like, I mean, he talking about everything.
He rambles like that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and this is straight up fear rhetoric.
Yeah.
This cat is done ingested in everything. So I'll put on my reverend hat, and I just have to pray for this brother, because this one, I mean, he naming everything, and it's like these people, it's like the immigrants are responsible for all of this. But here's my question. This is a land of immigrants. Who got the right to say anything over anybody else with anybody else at any time? I mean, the immigrants came over here and stole this country. They were thieves when they got here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the first one who steals gets to call everybody else a thief.
I guess that's right. So that's Claire Pella. Where's the beef?
Yeah.
Where's the beef?
How soon we forget. And that's the problem, you know.
Yeah.
There are people here that have certain privilege, and they want to talk about history, but then there are certain parts of history they don't want to remember or speak of.
Well, just back to the matter, he let all his shit out. I tell you that.
Yeah, and just because his skin is lighter than the indigenous people who was here already, you know, he doesn't even count them. You know, he just feels like, you know, he's the only game in town, right? Oh no, we were here first. No, you wasn't. You know, like the professor said, you know, you came allegedly in peace and then wiped out nations.
Yeah.
Nations of people. And, you know, and 45 abused his office when the border, you know, shut down. And today, you know, Biden said that I'm not going to look at a starving kid and send him back across the border where he came from. I'm going to feed him. I'm going to try and make sure he's okay, because they're kids. They haven't done anything to anybody. Now, you know, if you think that they're selling dope at 5 years old and killing people at 5 years old, you know, that's just, you know, hatred, you know, to even think like that about a kid. They're kids, okay? You know, yeah, man, you know, these kids coming because their parents told them, go across that line, okay? They're doing what, you know, the last thing that this kid's ever going to remember is that my dad sent me to what he thought was a better place, period.
Nah.
And that's why the Irish, the English, the French, the Italians, the Russians, the Germans, and everybody else in Europe came to America looking for a better life. And it's the same thing that the people from Guatemala and Mexico and wherever they're coming from, doing the same thing. What's the difference? The difference is it's not you. It's not your family members. So you have no sensitivity. And because you've been here and you've been in power, that you think that you can look at things differently. But your forefathers, your great grandparents or great-great-grand or whatever, came over here the same way, looking for an opportunity. Most came over here with a paper bag and maybe some underwear in it and a T-shirt and whatever you had on your back and a handful of dollars, and you came over here to try to make something of yourself in the new world. Mm-hmm. Many of you were very successful. Some of you were not. And so nothing has changed except it's just a different day. It's a different time.
You know,
and people are coming here differently.
You know, Lee, I'm glad you said that, and I agree. I concur. Dr. Ron, I agree and concur. You know, brothers, men, you know, when you can fend for yourself, and then you can eat, but then you realize that you can't feed those children or you can't provide for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's also our nature to book. We gonna leave.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we gonna put it up to hope and chance that happens. So I kind of agree. I'm kind of like in the middle on both sides. Cause how you gonna go back and you doing what you doing and look at these children and you starving and they starving.
Yeah.
How you gonna do that?
Well,
'Cause it's not you.
the thing about being a
It's not
father,
them.
when you're faced with that decision, it's not the easy decision, of course, to make. And I think in my situation, I would not do that for my children. My children stick with me. You belong to me. You belong to me. You belong to your mother. You're sticking with us. And we just have to do the best we can and ride this whole thing out. And so again, see, the politicians and people involved in government have done a very great job of taking the human factor out of it. And what I mean by that is they don't think about themselves or other people when they think about families being, separated, put into cages. They don't think about themselves or their wives or children because it's them versus us and vice versa. So I have nothing to do with that. In the human condition, you should. We're coming up on Easter. One of my favorite movies coming up is The Ten Commandments. No offense to Charlton Heston, but Yul Brynner is my man. Yul Brynner playing King Ramsay is my man, 50 grand. So there's a scene, obviously, where Moses tells the king, if you don't listen, every first male in every household will be dead. So what do? He ignores them, and all of his soldiers, their first soldiers sons are dead, and then his son dies. And then he starts to get it. Now, if he listened prior to that, it would never have happened with the deaths of the first male son and born in every household. My point is, you need to have the human condition that we all share, that we all should have the mindset of, you know what, that could be, again, my daughter or my son or my wife or my relative. But again, when you just completely dehumanize and don't even think about that, that's why you have issues now. If you had people thought that way, all this stuff would never have happened. But unfortunately, they cut themselves off, human perspective, because they know that if they box them in the corner, you're going to get a different answer out of them.
They're animals anyway. Let them lose their souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah. I mean, what everybody is saying is from the heart of a father. You know what I'm saying? The instinct and the nature that's embedded in us anyway. To go against our nature, to go against what's instilled in us, is very difficult to do, and I'm gonna say I applaud Candy for cussing. She said, "This nigga here, get the fuck out of here." Go ahead on, Candy. Speak up for the women. I love it. But and it's a hard call, So I don't want to see the children misused and abused on no level. The children are still innocent and eyesight, and the hearts of man should pour out comfort and care for children, period. There's no other way to put it. I mean, it's a difficult situation, and compassion in this situation, I believe politics ain't got nothing to do with this. Compassion, it's all about compassion at this point, for children. Okay, I keep emphasizing that, and I hope that and he has emphasized we are right now in the middle of making this a better situation. And he stood on that today in his press conference. So I applaud him for that, if nothing else. He's pulled the full weight of whatever resources he can put together to get these kids beds and to begin to look out for them. So
Yeah, we have to do that as a nation and as humans. We help people all over the world when times get tough. And that's who we are, Americans.
hmm
And sometimes I think that, well, maybe we should have other countries do more and save themselves, but sometimes they're not in a position to do that. When the hurricanes went through um, Puerto Rico, for example, I mean, that is a part of America, but I don't think we handle that appropriately. And the people are
hmm
still suffering down there. And
hmm
when the hurricanes go through places like even Cuba and the Virgin Islands and places like that, Bahamas, they suffer major destruction. Haiti, Africa, parts of Europe, we run to the rescue.
Yep. Relief
Spend billions of
organizations.
dollars.
Yep. All day
So
long. Yep.
so people coming across our southern borders should be treated differently. We should have compassion and love and concern for them. I don't understand how you can separate. What's the damn difference? It's no
But Lee,
difference.
let's be honest about something though. America doesn't show up any place that doesn't serve America's interests.
Oh, okay. I can dig
And this will be a topic for another show because it's way too big. But America has a very, very well established history of going to places where there are resources and taking as much of those resources as possible. And even though we pretend to be the world's police, you ever notice that we never confront any country that has a nuclear weapon? We only confront countries that don't. So take that for what it's worth.
So what you trying to say? America is guilty of raping and pillaging?
Yeah, it's built on it. It's a fine tradition.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we described. I mean, Chris hit it right on the head. Racism 101 is dehumanize the other.
Yeah.
You have to look at them as animals. What was the word that they used for us? Savages.
Yeah.
Right? Godless creatures. You have to dehumanize them. You have to make them different. That's actually what the whole point of Planet of the Apes was, if you go back and watch it.
Yeah.
It's that and America's first and greatest sin is racism. And that's why most of these stories can be easily bifurcated between what affects white people and what affects black and brown people.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, we should, and I'm sure we will have a more discussion about this particular topic, the sadness going on down at our southern border with kids coming over here without their parents. And
wow.
I can't process that whole thought. We have another interesting situation to talk about. Chris Bass, you picked a good topic, and I got a lot to say about it. Go ahead, set it up again for us.
Well, thank you so much. So here we go. So Sharon Osbourne, the CBS talk show, The Talk, and the whole show be put on hiatus because the comments she's made, not only on the current program, but also in the past. This is the same person who decided to go on social media to back up her friend Piers Morgan out of London there. Piers Morgan, of course, is a very popular host who does not care for Meghan Markle so much. And he's been on a tirade with her since, I believe, since he couldn't get enough from her, to be honest with you. The whole thing is just too damn personal. So Sharon was on Twitter saying she support what Piers Morgan was saying from the standpoint of freedom of speech, not necessarily the rhetoric that he was talking about. And she had some backlash for it. And on the show, she and her co-host, Cheryl Underwood, had some choice words back and forth. And she even made the comment that she felt, meaning Sharon Osbourne, that she was on an electric chair and everybody's coming after her, and told Cheryl Underwood, don't cry, things like that. So now on the investigation. There was a situation before in the past on the show, for example, back in 2017, when the panelists on the program were talking about Meghan Markle and Sharon Osbourne said, I didn't know she was black. And they were like, yeah, she's black. Well, she doesn't look black. Okay, so what does looking black mean? I hate to tell her this, we all come in different hues and different colors, and from brown and black and brown and light skin, and and high yellow and things like that. We come in all types of I just couldn't believe the comment she made about that. But this has been going back for a while. She also made the comment that a former co-host, Holly Robinson Pete, said that Holly Robinson Pete was ghetto. Now, I've been following Holly for a long time. There's nothing ghetto about her whatsoever. Again, it's the optics coming from Sharon Osbourne, which is now being investigated. This has been going on for a while now. On a national level with her, on a local level here, it's the same thing, similar to a guy named Mark Greco, who formerly worked at the ABC on WLS Channel 7 here in Chicago. And in his 27-year run, but 18 months left on his contract, when he made comments to his co-worker, ABC News anchor Cheryl Burton, as someone who can, quote unquote, play the ditzy combative interior decorator on a hypothetical do-it-yourself show. This was on air during the time. He reprimanded him. He was put on administrative leave since January 28th, and he just released him from his contract. So what we're seeing on a national level and a local level is the fact that your act is not playing anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to blame management at the same time, because they knew good and goddamn well that prior to the pressure that they received, they knew that their talent would make these controversial statements, or if they were racist, or they were bullying, but the numbers were coming in, advertisers coming in. So now all of a sudden, because the pressure's on, hey, wait a minute, let's get a moral backbone. You got to get the hell up out of here. You're fired. So Mark Greco is now gone on the national level. Sharon Osbourne, I don't think she'll return to the talk at this point. If they do bring her back, they'll give us some sensitivity courses. Make sure you know about black and brown people. And they'll probably take her ass to probably over to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles and have something to eat.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
With extra syrup.
With extra syrup.
Extra syrup.
But hey, all the points you made they're self-evident. The quiet as is kept, the whole point of entertainment is to sell advertising. And as long as that money's coming in, all manner of egregious behavior is going to be accepted. And only when they believe that money is threatened will they ever do anything about it. That's just the reality of commerce in America.
Or when they don't want the money no more.
Well,
let me ask a question.
I can't imagine when that would happen.
Do you think?
What was the boy? What was the boy name that just got let go on Fix It News? What was that boy name? Can't think of his name, but Lou Dobbs. They didn't want Lou Dobbs' money no more, or the money he was bringing in, so they cut him loose.
Well, yeah, Lou, he had his run. It ended a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. But let me ask you this: do you think that they should fire for what she said? Yeah. Should she lose her job?
She probably should. Don't get me wrong. She'll get another gig. They should probably set up right now. Same as going back here locally with Mark Greco. They'll get another gig. It's just the fact that we're seeing, it's about a cancel culture. We're seeing cancelization of racist comments and also bullying. So that is not taken. For example, going back to overseas in the pond with Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan, 41,000 people complained about Piers Morgan, and he had to go. Mm-hmm. So once again, going back to what Francisco said, when the light is shown on the bosses and the advertisers and the programmers, all of a sudden, hey, I'm not going to quit. So you have to go, meaning the talent. Right. The talent was cultured and nurtured all this time. All of a sudden, you're shown the door.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Isn't that the same show where the Asian lady had stepped down for a while because her husband was accused of being involved in some sexual harassment at one time?
Right. Her husband was president of the network at CBS, was former
Right.
Les Moonves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I know it was sexual harassment involved with it some kind of way. And she just felt like it was best to step down at the time she did, because of, the shadow that was on what was going on. I think they had like several anchors or something that had been accused of some sexual harassment of some type.
Well, that'll be a whole separate issue. I mean, this what they're doing right now with Sharon Osbourne is trying to string these back-to-back comments
together. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is the show itself has had a dark cloud over it for a while.
Oh, big time.
Yeah,
big
that's
time.
that's the point where I was
Quite a bit of
back.
controversy.
Yeah,
Yes.
even going back to the when they changed the black character in the cast, because when the show started out, they had a different lady comedian, and then they didn't like her, and I think it was Jackie Chan that ordered her off the show, and then they came up.
Was that Sherry?
Yeah, I think it was Sherry Shepherd.
Yeah.
Was it Sherry Shepherd? She was the first one. And
she
then
she was on The Talk. I know she was on The View, but now I know she's on The Talk.
View. Yeah.
But it was another African American lady on that show, and then they moved her out.
You talk about Aisha Taylor?
Was it Aisha Taylor or?
Yes.
Oh God, I can't think of her name. I can see her face. But you understand what I'm saying is that they move people in and out interchangeably, different cast members, to fit a role that they so-called character, that they want to fit into that cast.
Oh yeah, well, they all do
that.
I remember Aisha Taylor. I remember she left because she had other projects to do.
No, this one was a straight up firing.
This was straight up firing. So
yeah, she was a comedian. The one from Chicago. Oh God, what is that girl's name?
I don't know. I don't watch those shows.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that one for a few minutes. I'll shout it out in a minute once I remember what her name was. But she was in that the black character role at one time.
Mm-hmm.
The black comedian. Yeah, go ahead, Reggie. I see that look on your face.
I'm just being cool, because I'm gonna be cool on this here.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna yield my time. Y'all doing really good. y'all doing really good tonight. I don't have to do too much of nothing. So that's all right. Is it my time to hit it or what?
Hit it.
Okay, because y'all know my focus is, my question is, what are we going to do now to counterattack Jack Crow, Jim Crow's brother, Jack? So what are we going to do to attack the voter suppression that's going on in Georgia and
around the 43 states
and the 43 other states? So what do we do? So I'm waiting to hear from the voting rights or from the I should call it the voting law activists, or what are they going to begin to do to start educating African Americans and other minorities of their right to vote? Because we're talking about a democracy, but yet you don't want to let everybody vote. The only way, and one guy, one senator or one politician said the only way we can win is to make sure that not all the Democrats vote. And that's
because their party, the Republican Party, is shrinking.
Okay.
Even if everybody voted straight up, they can't win because they don't have a big enough voting block.
Well, that's really terrible. So that that should be an indication that it's time to change, and it's that you need to rethink and come to the table and renegotiate some of your ideologies.
No, they can't do that.
Oh yeah, I know, but and that's the sad thing, because you can't expect the country to go forward and you're staying as an anchor in your position.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Or you putting more weight on your position, which is, you listen, you can't keep making, I don't think that the white males that are running this Republican Party and some of their females should have the right all the time to make all the money the way that they want to make the money. You know, it has to be a moment where some other monies can come down to the people so we can start spending and doing some other things better, you know. But the focus for us needs to be, how are we going to counter these moves that's in Georgia and the 43 other states to ensure that these elections are fair? Now, I do think that in 2022, with the things that they're doing, they're going to have a rude awakening. I do believe that what they're trying to do is going to go against them, and especially in Georgia. And I think that if this woman, Miss Abrams, runs again, she's going to win this time. And whatever they're doing, they're going to change it. So a lot of these cats are trying to set them, the cats that are up for election in 2022, these cats are trying to set themselves up using the same old Reagan tactics. Fear, if you give something to black people, that's going to take something from us. The same old rhetoric. And that has to change. And the only way it can change is from us being educated about the lies that they tell us.
Well, that's true. And then you have to come back and argue the truth or present the truth against the lie, and make sure that as they began to try or may be successful in changing some of the rules and the process for people to vote, we have to work harder to educate and get people registered, new voters.
That's right.
That won't be affected by the BS that they're trying to pull.
So this national voting law needs to, the heat needs to be turned up on that, because I'm really angry. I'm really angry about the fact that, number one, the ancestors from me and most of us on this panel built this country. It was their blood, sweat, and tears. It was a lot that our people went through as slaves. Okay, and it's like 400 years later. It should be no question about whether or not we, need to vote in this country. If you really want our vote, you should cater to us. You can't have it your way all the time. You need to, if you're going to be a great politician, become a real politician and sell your programs to all of us, especially us. And we got to stop voting blindly. We got to make sure that people are going to do something for us for our vote.
In other words, hold them accountable.
That's right. Exactly.
And not only hold them accountable, but cut the deal before you pledge your vote.
Absolutely.
Okay. But here's the problem. We don't have enough people to represent us that's not going to sell us short.
Absolutely.
Okay. You got activists that are in the activist business. Okay. They go in and negotiate deals, but they have to take something off the table. That has to change. I'm not down with that. I'm sorry.
Listen,
no, I'm not down with
this. I got to tell you this. So there was, Dick Gregory, and God rest his soul. Dick Gregory was talking about this, and that very same thing that you're talking about, Lee. Dick Gregory said, when they brought him down to negotiate, with the powers that be, Dick Gregory told him, he said, man, don't you send me in there by myself with them. A couple of y'all better come in there with me, because if you send me there by yourself, you might not get nothing.
Right. Because I'm going to get it all.
Yeah, because that's the thing that we do have to be leery of and hold accountable our so-called leader, our so-called leaders. Because in reality, who really speaks for Black America? You know, who really speaks for us? So that's been something that has changed over the years. And you know, when we do have someone that does come up, I mean, they really put under a microscope, and something happens to them. You know, we get that charismatic leader like that can move people to doing things in a different direction. You know, that was the whole thing. And I hate to go back to say this, but, you know, that was the whole thing Hoover said about, you know, with the COINTELPRO. You know, you don't ever want a leader to rise up in our community, because we can't become of the same mind. A divided people makes it easier for them to stay in power.
Right. There's something that we have to appreciate about America. Well, and by the way, number one, before I even get to that, we really need to have Stacey Abrams on the show, because she needs to know that she is in contention to be my third ex-wife. So we got to start with that. But really, we have to understand,
you have to stand in line, brother,
that America has never been a full democracy. Never, ever, ever. Okay. Right now, the steps that have to be taken to even begin to address that is get rid of redistricting, get rid of gerrymandering, get rid of the Electoral College. The Electoral College was brought about to appease slave owners. Okay, let's revise that. Let's actually have one person, one vote. Until America has that, it's not going to be a democracy.
Yeah. Now, speaking to what Reggie's talking about, it is now on the shoulders of the federal government to present legislature and turning it into a law that will stop the states from being able to adjust voting state by state to their benefit.
And to do that, we have to get rid of the filibuster.
Yeah, well, you know, it's on the feds. It's on their shoulders now, you know, because, you know, if Georgia being the first out the gate to, you know, manipulate voting and voting rights, you know, they're just the first. You know, there's going to be other states that are going to follow suit. So now it is firmly planted on the responsibility of the federal government to step out and say, hey, you know, we're going to have a uniform voting code and law across all of the states. You know, then that will not be allowed to go unchecked, or, you know, will not allowed to be able to continue in the direction that is going in now.
Now, let me ask you this. That means the states are going to have to give up their power in the voting process, and it becomes more federally controlled. Good luck.
Well,
when Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, and a few more, do you think they're gonna throw in the towel and say, yeah, let's join this national voting rights consistency that all states have to go by the same rules? Ain't gonna happen.
So what you're trying to say is going to be a split right down the middle?
It's going to stay the same.
It's going to be the North, North United States, and then the South United States. Didn't we have that once before?
It ain't going to change. I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. And I'm not proud of saying that. But the fear among Southern whites, primarily, are not going to let that happen, because the people in power now are going to convince them that that's the worst thing in the world for you.
Yeah.
If you give up your power as a state to set the voting process the way you want it, it's not going to work out for you.
So
that's what they're going to be told.
So So there has to be a mass movement among black people. I mean, black people really that's something we really got to stand up and put in, stuff for. It's really got to go down. It's got to be the largest people movement that has been seen. You cats, I really want to go there, but I'm holding on. I'm really holding on, but because this is, excuse me, this is really crazy.
Yes.
Those cats, and it's all about power, and it's all about them.
Totally. That's all it is.
And maintaining that vector of power. But if you want me to do better, okay, I cannot continue to being under your thumb or under your foot. I got to have some power myself to make my own decisions.
Well, wait a minute, Professor. What makes you think that the people in power now want you to have that?
I know they don't want me to have it, but if you listen, this is not going to stop. And so it's like it's going to keep swelling. You can only put so much water in a balloon, and it's going to keep going. It's going to keep growing. And then sooner or later, it's going to burst. It's going to burst. The French did it. There's been revolutions, throughout history. But people come back and say, well, enough is enough. You understand? And plus, and one of the things is that, as Marvin Gaye once said, they're going to have to give it up because they're shrinking in numbers. They're not going to be, no matter how much they cheat and whatever, they don't have enough people. It's more people of color here that's going to continue to get here, and it's going to it's just going to change the scale differently. It's going to come out to be something different. So I don't know, man. They got to make it so we can do, as in the Bible, let my people go. We have to be able to do some things for ourselves and stop having to go do things through them all the time, because they feel like they got to control everything all the time. And I'm just sick of that. I'm just sick of that. Just let me alone, man. If you just stay where you are, I can make it. I can do what I do. I don't need you to come over here to mess with me, to tell me. I don't want you to show me nothing. The pygmy's been going on 5,000 years, man, and they ain't complaining about nothing.
Yeah, but they like messing with you. That's the thing about it. Yeah. It's once again power and control. Whoever has the power gives out the privileges. They like messing with you. Why? Because they can. And that's the thing about it. They get off on power. Who wouldn't? If you had all the power in the world and it was unlimited control and no one said stop, you had no stopping steps, could keep on going. The thing about going back to music, and I know Professor would appreciate this, probably one of the best titles of any rap album I ever got my hands on was Fear of a Black Planet. That has so much connotation. When people fear us, when we gather in numbers and strength, and we're all the same mindset, going back to what the panel just said, it's a beautiful thing. It's a strong thing. People fear it. They don't want it. It's classic divide and conquer, keep everybody separated. It goes back to Malcolm X in his autobiography and in the movie when Brother Johnson, got his ass beat. They go to the hospital. He has a conversation with a doctor in the street. We know, hey, he's going to be all right. Turns around, makes the signal. Everybody disputes. Everybody gets into the mob, so-called. Mob goes away. That's too much power for one man to have, as the police officer said. So again, when we're in numbers and we're in strength of the same mission statement, we are great. So it has to be divided up in this particular situation when it comes to the voting situation, because this is beyond serious. You're talking about generations of people. Again, if you tell somebody, well, you don't want the dark people to come in here and take away your right to vote, it's not right. We gotta put clamps on it. We gotta protect our white people. Now, don't get me wrong. Not all white people, but the ones who follow the category. I don't want people to come after me talking about, I'm white. Yes, I know you're white. I see you where you are. You're white and damn near bright. But my point being is that you have to understand the following, that when it comes to certain people of a certain hue, of a certain race, a certain Caucasian, whatever, there's a mentality that I am superior to you off the bat. We're tired of that. We're going to fight back. It's just going to be that way. And it's probably today more so than ever. Again, with COVID, with the murder of George Floyd, it has given us a reignitement of who we are.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And
well, I gave you $27 million. What more do you want? That man's life.
We
wasn't
want
worth
rights and
27 million.
privileges. We want rights and privileges.
George Floyd was not worth $27 million. And you know there are people that are thinking that way. The civil suit paid off $27 million
Yes, it did.
for the loss of his life. Okay? Some people think he wasn't worth 50% of that, or 50 cents. He wasn't worth those counterfeit dollars they claim he had.
Man.
That's the sad part, and that's what we have to grow up beyond that.
Well, it's what
We all have to be free and humans. Everybody.
Amen.
Even killed. Next week, folks, right here, same time.
Yes.
Five Guys and You on Street News Now. Good night and thank you.
SNN Street News Now.